situation in Israel. As you know, things are changing quickly, all fronts. So we start like every week with the numbers of the war. So we're in the 160 days of the Iron Swords War, almost 6 months. If you ask Israelis 4 months ago if we're going to get to this point and the war was still happening, I'm sure that no one would believe. Remember that Israel is a very small country. We used to have very short wars. We almost never had such a long war, just like this, that is occupying basically all over. It's not only one front. So we're in March 14th, the 160 days. We still have 134 people taken hostage and held in Gaza. We know from this week that 34 of them are not with us anymore, but the other 100, unfortunately, we do not have any more information that's been shared with the public. But just to understand the situation of the families that are waiting for their friends and their families. We still have 126,000 families like Noam that have been displaced for almost 6 months. To this day, we have 1,475 citizens and soldiers that die in this war, addition of 3 in the past week. It's the last bleeding week that we had for a long time. And I will say, but it's important to add that only this morning we had another terror attack in Israel in a very center area. So it's been the last bleeding week that we had, but it's a very sensitive time just to understand and remember Israel, we're all living together. So if a terrorist want to come and have a terror attack in Bet Kama like it was this morning, very hard to recognize who from the Arabs and everyone that's walking around you will be a terrorist or not. Again, very sensitive time, and we talked about the Ramadan in the past few weeks, very flaming time. And things can escalate very, very rapidly and fast. Wounded soldiers, the number is still on 5,881. Terrorists that we killed in Gaza, it's over 13,000 terrorists. Again, we talked a lot about the numbers that have been published by Hamas. So remember, there's a lot of terrorists in Gaza. Our soldiers, this is the people they meet the most, not the citizens, the terrorists. And in the Lebanon border, we know that the IDF killed over 300 Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon. And supply trucks that still going to Gaza every day. This week, for the first time, they went to Gaza on a road that Israel created in order to bring supply to the citizens of Gaza. Just to understand the paradox, this is an entity that we're fighting against, that butchered us, and we need to maintain their supplies and make sure they're surviving this event. So Israel doing the best that it can. One piece of information that I think it's important to share. A few days ago, they published result of a research that were conducted with the Hebrew University, Columbia University, Achva Hospital, and the organization called Effective Altruism about PTSD for the Israeli society. Just to understand what is a society in trauma, we're talking about more than 500,000 Israelis that will suffer from PTSD in different capacities. 8% of them will be soldiers. It's equal to 11,000 soldiers. 11,000, again, very small country is Israel, 11,000 soldiers with PTSD. And the rest will be citizens living in different distances from the Gaza border and being impacted all over. So going to the day after this war with 500,000 Israelis out of 9 or 10 million that will suffer from PTSD, just to understand how this society is going to look like and how enormous are the impacts of this war. Now we'll go over the 3 fronts, the main 3 fronts like we do every week. We'll start with Gaza. And I think in Gaza, there are 5 points that it's worth addressing this morning. Military-wise, the IDF is still finding strategic tunnels all over and doing what they do best. The biggest question is if and when we go to Rafah, which is, as if you follow the news, you see that it's in a big dispute with the rest of the world, who doesn't want to see Israel conducting a massive operation. Nonetheless, we know that in Rafah, we have 4 more Hamas battalions and probably our hostages as well. But while we're in Khan Yunis and in the center villages in Gaza, Israel, again, the IDF is doing what they know best. Just remember, we have soldiers that are fighting there for the past 5 months, went home twice or 3 times. So this is the situation, if you talk about the fighting situation. And as we find more and more strategic tunnels, we realize how much effort of money and supply were invested in building those tunnels and those resistance abilities instead of maintaining and protecting for the people of Gaza in the end of the day. Just to understand where all this money is going to. It's been reported this week that Israel was trying to establish a connection with the head of the Chamulos in Gaza. Chamula, it's like a clan. It's a sub-tribe, all connected by family, one way or the other, very common when you talk about Muslim or Arabs. With the head of the Chamulos to take leadership and responsibility of Gaza. And even if we talk about the supply that America wants to bring to Gaza through the sea, the question is what will happen with this supply once it will land in Gaza territory. In Israel, again, think about the paradox. We're trying to create their leadership for them after what they did to us, because we see the people behind the terrorists. 2 things happened because of this Israel trying to reach out to those Hamula leaders. They said that they would not cooperate with Israel, and Hamas executed one of the biggest Hamula heads in Gaza just to send the message that we're still in control and don't speak with Israel at all, just so you have an idea. The supply that America wants to bring through the sea looks like it's going to happen and looks like it's close. I don't think that Israel is against it in any way. Going back to military-wise, maybe the most important thing that happened this week, Israel, we believe, we're able to kill or eliminate number 3 in Gaza, Marwan Issa, which is the deputy of Sinwar, which is the head of the military forces in Gaza. It's not been confirmed yet, but if it did happen, this is the biggest achievement of the IDF so far. And it's important because he was the one that connected Sinwar's orders to the people on the ground and to the guerrilla forces that are fighting, and killing him is a very big hit for Hamas and can affect the possible deal, yes or no. One more important thing that happened yesterday that I would like to share, personal thing. The head of my division, Brigadier General Dan Klopus, he's been fighting for the past 5 months. He's the head of the 98 Division, the Commando Division of the IDF, been fighting in Gaza for 5 months. And he made a speech in front of all the press, talking about unity and about the fact that he is expecting our leaders and our politicians to be worthy of the sacrifice of the people and of the soldiers. I can say personally, I'm sure it wasn't approved. It's not something that IDF officers are allowed to speak about. I'm sure he spoke whatever the soldiers wanted him to say, and they couldn't. And I think he did the right thing, because at the end of the day, he is there with them for the past 5 months, and he needs to be their mouth outside. And again, if you're following Israel politics, I'm not going to go into it. I think it's something that people will need to hear, and me included. And I know that my friends and soldiers next week going to do another round in the north under his command, knowing that he's in the head and he's leading us, give me a big sense of pride. So again, this is done. One more thing that I want to say, I know that you're looking all over the world media about the situation of the supply and the starvation in Gaza. Please bear in mind, starvation, the people of Gaza, it's not part of Israel's strategy to push or pressure them for a deal. It's not part of what we're doing. It's not part of who we are. And remember, Israel is you and you are Israel. We are the same. And again, please put it in mind. One anecdote that I thought it is very important to share when I spoke with people this week, which give a very good example about why the IDF in Israel and the changes that have been done in the Israeli society after October 7th. The IDF is the people army. And all of the people in the sectors in Israel are now participating in this war. And just to have a small understanding, now in Gaza, we have secular and religious fighting together. We have Druze that are fighting with them, the same battalions. We have an entire battalion of Muslim Bedouins from the south and from the north that are fighting in Gaza from day one. We have an ultra-Orthodox battalion, only for them, that's fighting in Gaza for the first time. And of course, we have women that fought on October 7th and fighting now in Gaza. So literally all over the Israeli society is now fighting this war to protect our home. So this is about Gaza. Very quickly about the other fronts. West Bank, we talked about the Ramadan that started this week. Now it's relatively quiet. Israel, I think, made the right decision by allowing all the Israeli Arabs to go to Temple Mountain this week or this month. Again, basically made the differentiation between saying them, you're not the enemy. We're not fighting all Muslims or all Arabs, and you are quiet and get the rights to go to and pray. But just again, remember that in Ramadan, everything is very explosive, and the smallest event can create big things and problems in Israel, just like we had 2 days ago when a police officer shot a 12-year-old Palestinian. I will say it was a terrorist. They will say it was a 12-year-old Palestinian. The end of the day is that it's not a good situation to be in during Ramadan. And again, just remember, things are very flaming in that time. But again, now it's relatively quiet. Quickly over to the north. It feels like it's stuck, basically. That the war in the north is very much connected to the war in Gaza. Israel keep destroying Hezbollah abilities. Israel hit more than 4,500 targets in Lebanon, killed more than 300 terrorists. But still, the feeling of all my entire family and friends being in the north is that it's stuck and it's connected directly to what's going on in Gaza. It's a very weird and hard situation to be in. Israel feels that it's not in control of the things that are happening in a very big part of Israel. So again, when we have something more to say about the north, we will, but for now it's connected directly to Gaza. Thank you. Now I'm going to pass the torch to Noam that will share with us her whole story. Noam, thank you.
So hi, everyone. It's good to be here with you. I'm going to share a bit my experience from October 7th and, everything that came kind of after that during the time and all throughout this 5 very long months. So for me, for those of you who knows and who doesn't, I live very, very close to the Gaza border. So October 7th was a very stressful day, to say the least. Me and my siblings were alone at home, which I am actually back right now and being with you from my kibbutz from Yad Mordechai. So we were alone in the shelter when everything started. We initially thought, this is just a regular thing, a regular day, which is also, kind of sad to say in itself, but nothing prepared us to what was coming to be in the next few hours. We turned on the TV in the shelter, and we also were getting a few messages from the kibbutz when the power went out, and we started living by knowledge. So we heard gunshots outside, live gunshots, which is not something we're used to hearing here, especially not during regular time. And we realized that there was something really, really wrong. So basically, the feeling was when we grasped what was happening outside, and when we got the messages locking everything down and staying in the shelter, not coming out, and whoever has a weapon, grab a weapon, then we realized that this is way scarier than anything we've ever been through. And the feeling was that in any second, in any moment, terrorists can come inside my house and kidnap me and my siblings, or kill us. So the feelings were very hard and intense of that day. We didn't really know anything. We barely had connection, and at some point my dad came and he picked us up, and by luck nothing happened, because looking back, everywhere we went was kind of filled with terrorists. And so was the situation around the kibbutz. The fact that we were saved and no one came in was pure luck, and good people that came out on time and kind of helped protect this place. That's how none of us got hurt. By 10, we were already in Tel Aviv with my parents, and receiving everything and all the information, seeing the news, and starting to hear names of friends and family or people that we know that are either missing or we know were killed. Was very intense and hard, and the family kind of split to two, because I'm in my regular service in the army right now. My brother was released not long ago, and my father has been a reserve for a lot of years now. He was a fighter in the Navy, and he serves there every few months. So we all kind of picked up our phones and we were trying to see what we can do. My brother and my father very quickly went and found stuff to do in the army. My brother first joined the reserve here in the kibbutz that protected the kibbutz that day on October 7th. And my father went to his reserve, in his unit, and they went south, and he was in charge of treating and fighting all the wounded from his unit. I had to wait a little while to be called because my job in the army is a medical trainer, so we needed to figure out how to do it. But we helped in other fronts, I helped with friends or friends of families or families that were needed medical assistance from afar. So kind of trying to guide people out through the phone to what to do if someone got hurt. It was a really intense day, and all of that came with going back to the army. So later that day, I was already gathering my things and packing up to go to the base. And the whole feeling was kind of conflicted, because on one side there's my family, and there's the whole sense of us needing to stay together, and friends and family that were ripped apart and waiting for people to come when no one came. And there was the sense of protecting my family, my home. This is really a battle for our home. So that was the feelings, and going back to the army was even more of a empowering feeling, because this is literally our time to do everything we can to protect our loved ones and our home that has been invaded in the most horrific way. And even though we didn't get any physical damage, we experienced a lot of mental damage. So being a part of the army at this time is a feeling I can't even describe. It's very complicated, but it has given me a sense of, importance and something to fight for. This is my place to fight for my life as I know them, my family, my house, my home. And through all of that, we kind of lived separately, because my half of the family is in the army and the other half is evacuated. And being an evacuated family who lives separately for 5 months now is complicated, because you don't know where everybody is going to be on Friday, and my dad is sometimes inside the fighting and going into Gaza, going out. My brother is doing shifts in the medical part of the intelligence and kind of connecting wounded people with assistance from out, like evacuating them from the strips. And he gets a lot of tough calls called in, and he needs to manage them. And I walk all around the country, mainly in the West Bank, to do medical training to people to kind of help save lives. And this whole combination of events throughout 5 months made the family live remotely. We are communicating mostly by text during the day. We haven't lived together in a while now, and it's difficult because my mom and my siblings are with our community up north in Hedera, and me and my brother, we came back home a month and a half ago, and my dad is kind of walking around in the center with his job and everything. So it's also something to say about our community, that we live kind of together remotely, the whole community. And it's tough because right now, walking outside the door in the kibbutz in a time like this usually would have been filled with kids and, the afternoon activities and life, a lot of life. And right now you walk outside and there's barely someone here. A lot of people haven't come back yet, especially not people with kids, because the educational frameworks haven't been restored yet. And it's a hard feeling. It's like you walk outside and your house is the same, your home is the same, the kibbutz haven't changed much, but still everything is different because nothing will ever stay the way it was, even when everyone will come back. So we're still trying to live as a community in all the spots that we're in, and this is like a bright light because the community is really trying to stay together. And that's like the most of it. This is like our life right now on a really brief talk. If you want to hear more, if you want me to talk to your communities or anything like that, I'll be happy to. I will leave my info down and you can contact me however you want. And just so you know that you hearing us, your listening, your support means so much than we can ever say in words, because we are here fighting maybe physically, but you are fighting a war that is much greater than just Israel. It's for everyone, every Jewish community around the world, and it means so much.
Wow. No, you gave me the chick pops, but it's amazing. You said so simple, but the story behind the smile is hard. So again, thank you. And Long Island community see you as part of them, and we see you as part of us. So it's tear us apart to know that you're in Israel, experienced all of it. So thank you for sharing. While you were speaking or thinking, you had to grow up very fast since October 7th, and I'm sure that your friends are the same. I think what I want to ask is what helped you to cope? What is, from where you're getting the strength to go and do whatever you do every day in your family, in your community? So this is one thing. And the second is, you spoke a bit about the kibbutz, and we talked in the beginning about how the Israeli society is going to look like afterwards. We touched the PTSD part, but looking in the future, your friends, your communities, not only Yad Mordechai. Any thoughts? Do you think that people will come back? Do you think it will go back building the Gaza envelope? So it was two questions.
I think, well, I'll start with the first one, that I think we cope by being together. Like me and my friends, most of us decided, my group age, we decided to come back. If it's not for all the time, then for weekends, because most of us are in the army most of the week. So we're coming back together, and we're staying together here on the weekends. And I think we have a lot of support. A lot of people are contributing, and they want to hear and they want to talk to us. And we have a lot of options of, talking to professionals. But I think the best way we cope is together. And of, like, for me, it's also coming back here to kind of cope with having been here for a while now. You need to cope with the war sounds that you hear almost every day here. And you need to cope with kind of what happened, because the home that we know will never be the same, not as it used to be. So that's kind of my way of coping. And I want to believe that a lot of people would come back eventually. Like, when you look at it, this is our home. This is where I was born. This is where I grew up. This is where I belong. And if I can't live here safely, I don't think I can feel safe anywhere in the world. And so, even though our home was hit hard, I think a lot of the people would come back to rebuild the communities that we lost. And I think also a lot of people would want to come and join the communities that we have here, because the Gaza envelope, this area is a very special area in the country, in Israel, not just because it's very beautiful here, but because there are very good communities here. Like, every single place that we're hit is one of, I know personally people from there, and I know people that were lost there, and they are the best people I know.
Thank you. And I think the best way maybe to end this conversation, but first, is the sentence, "This is our home." And I think it's relevant for Mordechai, it's relevant for us as Israelis, and I'm sure that for the Jews here as well, we look all over Israel. This is our home, and we have no other place to go, and that's why we keep fighting for it. And that's why we're gonna come back and rebuild everything, and to memorize the one that sacrificed their lives and everything they could for us to have the ability to do so. So Noam, thank you very much. And I will urge all of you, if you go to Israel, Noam reach out to me before. She'll be very happy to get a phone call from you, and meet, show you her kibbutz or community, anything she can. So I will share Noam info on the email I will send in the next week, with all the resources we have. So again, feel free to reach out to them. Noam, thank you so much. Have a quiet weekend, everyone. And see you next week. Bye-bye.